Hello and welcome to Joy News. Today my name is Kimini Nyamani Amano. Coming up, former Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, Chachu Chikata, is appearing before the Judgment Debt Commission over the controversial sale of the corporation's drill ship in 2001. And plenty more over the next 60 minutes. Don't go away. Now, former Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, Chachu Chikata, is appearing before the Judgment Debt Commission over the controversial sale of the corporation's drill ship Discover 511 in 2001. It was during Chikata's time that the corporation entered into an oil hedging transaction with French multinational bank Societe Generale that went bad. The GNPC's Discover 511 was sold for $24 million to defray a judgment debt owed Societe Generale as a result of the bad hedging.
Instead, a request by our lawyers that tape recordings of various conversations that occurred in the course of those transactions, which they had in their custody according to their normal practice, they also resisted the application by our lawyers that those should be made available as part of the discovery process. Accordingly, our lawyers decided that they would make an application to the court for orders for these documents, for these tape recordings to be made available, and for the documents where they had blanked out certain things to be disclosed without the things that they had blanked out. In other words, to be disclosed fully. Now, this process was going back and forth for some time, and at the same time, some discussions took place, especially after we insisted on this discovery of documents from their side.
An update on this in a bit, but also Chief Policy Analyst at the Ghana Institute for Public Policy Options, Dr. Charles Rekubrobe, says the issue in the sale of the GNPC drill ship has to be whether the circumstance government took to take action on sale was correct and whether it was properly applied. Speaking on the Super Morning Show on Joy FM, Dr. Charles Rekubrobe noted anything that smacks of politicization or the broadening of the mandate of the sole commissioner will lead to the dilution of his credibility.
It really has to be where the circumstances in which the government appropriated those laws to take those actions, were they proper and was the law properly applied? So I want, in my view, the sole commissioner to move away from creating the impression that the only way in which government could act was through a board of directors. How did Societe Generale receive? Have we confirmed they received it? What happens to the rest of the proceeds? Have we got enough evidence of the disbursement of those 3.5 million? They are named individuals and entities which receive them. If they are alive, and we know some of them, believe some of them to be very prominent, call them to confirm or deny that they received this money for these services. So, amid all the cacophony of noise, we are beginning to get to answering the core questions. But I think anything that smacks of politicization or broadening of the mandate will inure, to a dilution of the credibility of the sole commissioner, and it must be avoided.
On the same program, Executive Director of Imani Ghana, Franklin Kujo, said it was of the proper record keeping. He says proper record keeping must be prioritized. He was proper record keeping of the civil servants who are permanent, and ministries and not ministers should rather be the ones answering the questions.
one of the very sad aspects of our country in terms of should I call it management of records was on play yesterday. You know, you'd have thought that after 12 years of living office, a minister should not be the one being called to come and answer questions about transactions. The civil service, I mean, if they have the tenor, they have the anonymity, they have the, what do you call it? I mean, they are permanent, you understand? So they should be having all these records. And it goes through almost every facet of our lives. You were just talking about housing. I mean, there's no institutional memory, or even when there is institutional memory, nobody wants to follow through. So it's the bane of our development, and I think the civil service has got to up its game.
Let's talk about the budget now. International ratings agency Fitch has cast doubts over government's ability to trim the fiscal deficit in the 2014 fiscal year. Fitch, in a statement, stated emphatically that it does not think Ghana's 2014 budget statement presented to Parliament last Thursday will effectively address the deterioration in government finances. The 2014 budget targets a deficit of 8.5% of GDP, following an upward revision of the 2013 deficit to 10.2% against a target of 9% contained in the previous budget. The budget also pushes back a year until 2016, the target deficit of 6% of GDP. Fitch maintains the pace of fiscal consolidation over the next 2 years will be slower than government projects, and rather forecasts a deficit slightly above 9% for 2014. According to Fitch, there are still persistent shortfalls in revenue collections over the past 2 years. In the studio with me is financial analyst, also lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Business School, John Gachi, who will help us, let's try and understand this with Fitch. Many thanks for your time on news today.
Thank you.
What do you think about what Fitch has said about 2014 budget?
Well, I think Fitch is too fast in commenting on the budget, especially the fiscal position in 2014. Bear in mind that it is the same Fitch that will come somewhere in April to trying to make comment about how we have started the budget process and how the budget is picking up.
Right.
So if Fitch has come out clearly to state a negative position about the budget, then what are they coming to say come 2014 when the budget is rolling out? So that is a difficulty about the way Fitch is operating. I think there are a few questions we need to raise about the operations of credit rating agencies for all of us to know what is going on. We have about 150 or more credit rating agencies throughout the world, but we keep on hearing just about 3 of them operating like an oligopoly and therefore enhancing their cartel-like operation across the world. There are a lot of concern about their operation. It has come clearly from European Union and then North America that when countries are suffering from economic challenges, credit rating agencies ought to be very careful the comment they make about such economy. Because if you continue to make negative comment about the economy when they are putting in place clear policies to address the situation, then you tend to contribute to deepening the problem of those countries. But it seems to me that at this point in time, Fitch is not adhering to those principles, and that is very problematic. There is also what we call a solicited rating and then unsolicited rating. It is important for Ghanaians to know who has solicited the rating of Fitch and who is paying for that rating. Because the one who is paying for rating also determines, or there is a correlation between the rating quality and the one who is paying for the rating, or whether it is solicited rating or not. These are things that we should be very clear about. So I do not think that Fitch coming out this time.
Do we know what Fitch is, whether it's solicited or unsolicited?
I think that is what should be very clear to us, who is paying for their services on the economy of Ghana. Bear in mind that what Fitch is doing has a serious repercussion on our economy. Note that we have, as a nation, established an infrastructure fund to take care of infrastructure projects. That is also addressing debt management processes and risk management attached to our debt portfolio from 2014. it is possible that Ghana will go into the debt market again for Eurobond or for a longer-term bond to finance infrastructure. So if at this point in time you have started making negative comment about the economy of Ghana, what you are virtually doing is that you are preparing the mind of the creditors in the market to prepare to charge us higher when we come to the market. And I do not think that is the way a credit rating agency should be operating, especially when there are clear signals in the budget that Ghana is concerned about its deficit and is preparing to fight, the deficit situation that the country has. I do not think that it is proper for that to be taking place.
What must we do then as a country? Should we just flush this down the toilet and hope that the 2014 budget will solve our problems?
Not at all. They have raised significant issues. We all know that we have a problem with deficit, but nobody should deceive us to believe that if you have a deficit of around 11%, you should be able to reduce it in 1 year. Nobody even knows the methodology that these rating agencies have been using. We should be very clear the methodology they are using. They have used these methodologies and they have found it wrong many a times. In fact, before the global financial crisis, most financial institutions, they rated very high, positive, investment grade, 3-star. But just within one month, those businesses collapsed. They rated Greeks very high. Just after 6 months, the Greek economy collapsed. So, credit rating agencies is something that Ghanaian financial system should sit down, look at their modus operandi, and see who is soliciting for their services and whether they are doing good to us or not. It is high time we stop doing this thing. When credit rating agencies speak, then everybody is shivering. Bear in mind that they have in their operation what they call opinion. And when it becomes a legal issue, they say it is not binding because it's just an opinion. But it is creating a lot of problem for nations when they want to go into the debt market. I believe we shouldn't allow the credit rating agencies to just be fiscal police officers against the economies that we are living in. We need to interrogate what they are doing. It's very, very important. That does not mean that they do not raise critical issues, but the way they are operating, I do not think that is rather going to help solve the problems of the country, but rather to deepen the wounds of the country.
What would you say are some of the critical issues they have raised in this that we should look at, we should pay attention to?
The basis of managing the modern economy is a huge revenue base. They have raised that. We still have some weaknesses in our revenue mobilization. We need to put in more effort to do that. We are aware of the problems. We know that there are leakages. We know that we have not enhanced the tax net efficiently. We ought to do those things to bring on board revenue mobilization. But the point I'm raising is that the one who is going to audit you is telling you that your procedures are wrong. The one who is going to be the referee in the future match is already telling you that you cannot win the match. What are we doing?
Before you started.
Yes, what are we doing? I think we need to be very critical about some of these things.
On the back of that, today the House debates the 2014 budget. What would be the critical issues you expect the debate to center around?
Well, I think that the debate should focus on the critical issues that have been identified by the budget. It should be devoid of the normal politics. The area that will not enhance the economic fortunes of the country, the members should be bold to point them out. The areas that we all know that they have the potential of moving the country forward, I think they should find a way of supporting those things, and then Ghana will move on.
Many thanks, John, for passing through the studio this afternoon. Totally grateful for your company. John Gachi is an economist and a lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Business School. Away from the budget, the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, is proposing a fixed duration for campaigning. He notes this will help boost the country's electoral system and is part of the observations made at the recent local elections held in Denmark. He spoke to the media.
I think that one of the most important lessons we learned, which can be applied immediately to our elections in Ghana is the fixed term for campaigning and a fixed term after which all posters ought to be removed from the system and then the winner allowed to govern. I think it is an important lesson that we have to learn. The local government system handles 50% of the budget. It is also very impressive. And I think we should be working towards something like that. The district councils actually employing the teachers in the basic schools. So they are able to monitor the work you do there. If you cannot perform, they fire you. Our democracy will be improved if we are able to decentralize further so that decisions about government services that affect our day-to-day life is brought as close to us as possible.
You're watching Joy News today. Ahead on the program, we'll tell you if the debate in Parliament on the 2014 budget is started and what's been going on. And also ahead, South African President Jacob Zuma is set to hold a joint news conference with President Mahama at the Flagstaff House. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Thank you very much for staying on. A move right on. And a principal development consultant of Associates for Change, a Canadian-based research agency, Dr. Leslie Casely-Hayford, says education is not yielding the needed results in the economy, mainly because of the poor quality of basic schools. In an address to parliamentarians, she asked for educational systems, particularly at the primary level, to be critically reformed to ensure its budget efficiency and effectiveness.
Leslie Casely-Hayford was taking members of parliament through some analysis her outfit had done on matters raised on education in the 2014 budget. For the development consultant, although government has increased its education budget from about 4.5 billion Ghana cedis this year to over 5.8 billion in 2014, its effect would not be felt if the fundamental challenge in the sector is not addressed.
Only through basic education can you actually achieve economic growth, sustained, not only from exports and other things, but grown from within the country. We need a labor force who is well educated, entrepreneurial, and able to take up the opportunities that this particular stage in Ghana's history faces. So what we're challenging you as parliamentarians to do is to think about where the resources are going. Is it too much skewed towards tertiary and senior high school when we really haven't achieved quality at primary level?
She, however, commended government for recognizing the need for special educational support for girls to attain higher levels of education and subsidies in deprived areas. Dr. Edward Ebo-Anoma, a lecturer at the University of Ghana who also presented to the House some analysis on the agricultural sector, maintained that the 3.4% growth in the sector could be improved if the sector is modernized.
If indeed we want to boost productivity, then there is the need for research and development, but this should reflect all the stakeholders in the agric sector, and not only with respect, let's say, to the production aspect. If you will look into the budget, attention is given to the production aspect, but it is very important that research and development should cut across in terms of processing, in terms of marketing, to boost, that aspect. Modernization of the agric sector is equally very, very key, and that is the attention of government on physical capital.
The post-budget workshop for members of parliament, meanwhile, was to deepen the understanding of the national budget and prepare them for effective discussions and analysis on it beginning November 26.
The Petroleum Commission has dismissed suggestions that the passage of the Local Content and Local Participation Act by Ghana could possibly dampen investor confidence, making Ghana unattractive for foreign investments. Parliament last week passed the act that will promote Ghanaian participation in the oil and gas sector. Its passage has raised concerns from the international oil companies who have expressed fears of the impact it will have on their businesses. I'll be right back. You're welcome back to News Today. The Public Interest and Accountability Committee has expressed deep concerns over government's failure to utilize the country's petroleum revenue according to the specifications of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 2011, Act 815. The committee observed that in 2012, the government did not implement the plan of petroleum revenue allocation approved by Parliament in the 2012 national budget in respect to the annual budget funding amount, adding that it failed to provide explanation for the anomaly. According to PIAC's report on the management of petroleum revenue for year 2012, although the law required the Minister of Finance and Economic Plan and prioritized not more than 4 areas for the allocation of the ABFA, he made allocations to all the 13 priority areas listed in the law. With me in the studio is John Peter Amewu. He's Director for Research and Policy at the Africa Center for Energy and Policy. We're trying to understand the concerns raised by the PIAC. Many thanks, John, for passing through News Today.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're not surprised by the concerns of the PIAC, but what can we do about it?
Well, of course, this is not the first time they raise such issues. I think this is the third report that they're coming out. They have a genuine concern, and I think as an accountability committee, the signal it's sent right to government to live up to expectation. One of the most important issues I understand from their concern, it's the allocation of the alpha. You know, the law really specified the 12 areas which alpha can be allocated, but within that, the minister has a discretion to select 4 priority areas. If you look at the expenditure over the period, instead of the 4, though the 4 has been selected and as its objective, most of the 12 areas has been covered. And so what that seeks to do is that the oil revenue has been spent thinly over a number of projects. Okay. And if you take a typical example, for instance, some of the roads, it will take 25 to 30 years to finish the construction of the road if we continue spending so thinly on those selected projects. So I think they have a genuine concern. What we need to do as a matter of efficiency spending of revenue is to make sure that the revenues are concentrated on a particular project. I mean, you cannot tell me for sure for all this period, 3 years, where our revenue has gone to. There is no typical project you can pinpoint and tell me that this is what we have done. Okay, so I think they raise genuine concern, which means government needs to select just a few areas. And I think this government has actually listened, because if you look at the 2014 budget, they have actually done that. They have selected just a few areas, and not the numerous,
But I recall also that though they have selected 4 areas, you've had an issue with the fact that part of it is going to be used for the expenditure and amortization of loans in the oil and gas sector, which is not in the 13 priorities.
Of course, which is in the 13 priorities. The 12, 13 priorities specify those areas. But what government consistently seeks to do is to impose in, the amortization of the oil and gas infrastructure, which is taking so much of the APFA, the annual budget fund amount. In our view, and just as the accountability committee stated, we think that it is inconsistent with the law. Because if you want to use the oil money for infrastructure and oil-related activities, well, that seeded revenue that goes to GNPC, the law says you can use that, okay, but not to use the one that is to be used for other infrastructure development. Don't forget, the oil expenditure should be seen as an additional expenditure to be used for vital developmental agenda of this country, agriculture and education. But we shouldn't be considering the expenditure, the oil revenue, as one of our major source of funding the budget. If you do that, we'll end up ending very badly like most countries over the
We
period.
know that what is happening is inconsistent with the law. What can we do about it?
No, there's nothing we can do. As a country, we want good laws, we want democracy, rule of governance, isn't it? Accountability, leadership. And so if you have a law, you need to go according to the law. But unfortunately, the politicians we have in these emerging countries that we find ourselves tend to turn their back, and do likewise. So if the law is there and you refuse to go according to the law, I mean, there must be something.
Is there nothing binding on the finance minister so that, for instance, the PIAC is asking that a review of the PRMA should give it, a legal backing to be able to demand this accountability we are all looking for. Could that solve
I think
our
it's right
problem?
because, for instance, if you look at the collateralization of the alpha, by collateralization I mean the law is saying that you can use part of the annual budgeting amount to service your debt. Okay, if you use that collateralization, it's said within a period of 15 years. But that law within the framework has no limit for how much percentage of the alpha can be used within the 15 years. And so what is going to happen in this country, if you have a very selfish minister one day, and he goes to borrow, as we are witnessing in Ghana, a lot of borrowing is going on. What will happen one day is that they can use the whole of the alpha to service the loan.
And
because there's no limit.
It.
You cannot question. So you see, the discretionary measures in the budget gives the minister to play around the law. So, for instance, the use of the alpha for the oil and gas. Because, again, the law says other areas. So the minister would therefore go and use the other areas. And then we think that if the other areas are equally important, they should be specified within the 12 priority areas. So we need to be consistent with the terms and specifications.
And you think it's time for a proper review of the PRMA?
It's proper because there are a lot of discrepancies in that law. Even if you look at the transfer between the Ghana Petroleum Fund and then the APFA, it's not very clear, The law in itself states, in the good terms of the law, that it should be 30-70. 30 should go in. But if you look at the application, what is going in, it's when there's an excess over the estimated quarterly projected revenue. That goes into it. Okay, not the 30%. So we need to review. There are a lot of discrepancies that need to be taken into consideration. And not until we do that. Look, again, one thing very critical about the law is that this law that established an accountability committee, which is very vital for leadership and governance of the oil and gas sector, has no provisions for this accountability committee in terms of funding. But the same law that established the advisory committee, which presupposes to advise the minister and the Bank of Government, the central bank, on how this petroleum fund should be invested into what portfolio, has a funding mechanism for them. Is it an oversight? And so the PIAC, which is supposed to be you and I, our tool to serve as a watchdog over the performance of some of these elements.
It's ill-funded.
It's ill-funded.
And it can work.
That is it. That is their problem. I wonder how they are working. I even understand they haven't got a secretariat as we sit, today. So it's very difficult. So there are a lot of discrepancies that we need to look into the law, and there's a need to review the law.
And we should review first.
Definitely, we need to do that as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much, John, for you sharing this with us. John Peter Amewu is Director for Policy and Research at the African Center for Energy Policy. We've been talking the Public Interest and Accountability Committee's concerns raised about the use of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act and the annual budget funding amount. We'll go to Parliament in a bit and also deal with the budget. But now let's talk about, I understand that we can't go now. And so let's join Emmanuel Ante, who is giving us an update on what Parliament has been debating as far as the 2014 budget is concerned. Hello, Ima.
Where the members of Parliament have started a debate on the 2014 budget, which was presented last week, Tuesday. Members are already in a tussle as to what is going on the floor of the House and then what the economy is really about. Currently, what I can tell you is that members, especially from the minority side, have raised concerns about the budget and saying that it is not as we expect it to be, and it's not as it's being painted, the picture is being painted as it is. And then the ranking member of the Finance Committee, Dr. Akutuose, was saying that the budget statement is a confirmation of the challenges the economy is facing. And so
we apologize for that. We'll go back to Parliament in a bit. But struggling smartphone maker Blackberry has shaken up its top management as part of its continuing reorganization. The The firm's chief financial officer, Brian Bidalka, will be replaced by James Yesh, who has previously served as controller and head of compliance. The chief marketing officer and chief operating officer will leave the firm with no replacements announced. This comes just weeks after the firm appointed a new interim chief executive as it shelved a plan to sell itself. Blackberry named John Chen as the interim chief executive officer as it announced it had abandoned a planned sale to its biggest shareholder, Fairfax Financial Holdings. The management changes are the first major move made by Chen. Right, let's go back to Parliament now and join my colleague Emmanuel Ante. Let's find out what Parliament has been saying. Well, I understand. Well, there he is. Emmanuel Ante will be telling us in a bit.
Members of government and members of everybody involved in government or in the governance of this country should be made to pay their utility bills. And that is rather the best way to go instead of using cutting off 10% of their salaries. He is of the opinion that when every member of this country is made to pay a utility bill, his or her utility bills, that will rather go a long way, and that will rather resolve the current challenges we are facing, and that the 10% budget cuts for president and his appointees will amount to nothing. So that is what we are facing here at the moment. Members are also expected to raise this budget debate is going to go on for this whole week, and we are expecting it will be passed. All right, it will be approved by Parliament, but we are expecting that the minority will exercise their oversight responsibility as to checking whatever recommendations have been made or whatever the government or the minister is asking for to be done, to do their due diligence and do their mandated duty to be able to streamline whatever or the expenditure of government or the finance minister. So this is what we are currently facing here in Parliament. Back to you in the studio.
Many thanks, Emmanuel Ante. There's more news ahead. Don't go away. Now, Black Stars coach Kwesi Appiah says there are equal opportunities for every player, including those in the local leagues. Speaking at the Baba Yara Stadium before the match involving Ghana and Burkina Faso in the Go TV Wafu Cup on Monday, Appiah explains that improvement in the Black Stars team is a must, and more talents will make that possible. The local Black Stars beat Burkina Faso by 2-1 to progress to the final of the ongoing Wafu Cup in Kumasi on Monday. SFs of the match.
That's perfect. Circus free kick, flies it straight, and that is a goal. An own goal. He heckled him in the process. There was obstruction. Now it is Kamet Kabari. 1-1, just 42 minutes gone, and Burkina Faso have leveled, and they have restored parity here.
No, hardly the goalkeepers miss penalties. It knocked it down, but then it was Theophilus Anaba who was in an offside position, a shade offside.
Milan boss Massimiliano Allegri has named the 90-man squad for Tuesday's crucial Champions League tie at Celtic. Ghana midfielder Sule Montari is missing in the squad after picking up a fresh injury while in action for AC Milan against Genoa and the Italian Serie A on Saturday. Details of the injury are still scanty as Milan doctors will conduct a scan on Monday to assess the extent of the injury. The Diavolo will travel to Glasgow without Felipe Mexis as the stopper has picked an eye problem. But midfielder Antonio Nocerino returns to the party after injury. Allegri hopes to have Stefan El Shaarawy and Mattia De Sciglio back have been dashed, while Marco Amelia is missing too because of injury. That'll be all for sports, brought to you by Tigo. Now you're welcome back. South African President Jacob Zuma has held a joint news conference with President Mahama at the Flagstaff House. The two leaders have been holding bilateral talks at the presidency. The South African president arrived in the country last night for a 3-day state visit to Ghana. He is accompanied by Bongi Ngema Zuma. Seth Kwame Boateng was there at the news conference. He's joined us, or he is still there at the news conference. He's joined us over the telephone. Hello, Seth. Hello, Seth.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. What more can you tell us about this press conference?
The news conference just ended, and the two leaders agreed on 3 things: air services, memorandum of understanding on transport, and on electricity matters. They have discussed ways they could join forces to help improve on these 3 things that I mentioned. President Mahama told a news conference that aside these 3 things, they discussed development in Africa, the upheavals in Central Africa, in Libya, in Tunisia, Egypt, and they discussed ways the African Union could help bring these to an end so we don't get it spread to other nations. And the agreements they signed, the president said they are going to ensure that both countries work hand in hand to ensure that this is achieved. Now, the South African president praised Ghana's democracy and said that we have improved on our democracy and our governance, and the two have increased in the country. And because of this, next year they're going to give an award to Ghana for helping achieve good governance and democracy in Ghana. And they also address issues on the economy, how both countries could team up and ensure that they deal with budget deficits in their respective countries.
So in these 3 sectors that the MOU was signed on, what do we know about the detail of exactly what the MOU is about with transport and electricity, the 3 major areas you mentioned?
On electricity, President Mahama said that we have comparative advantage over that, but we had problems a few months ago. So our aim now is to get private investors to come on board, and he believes that there are enough investors in South Africa, and we can tap into what they have and help boost our energy supply. He said it's about time Africa worked hard to ensure that this problem is dealt with, because if we don't do that now, we're going to run into problems. And on air services, the president said it's about time that we dealt with the situation whereby before we can even move from one African country to the other, we have to go, for example, to some European countries before we come back. It's about time we have such transport facilities or air services so we can move about easily in Africa.
What next for President Jacob Zuma?
Well, he has already visited the Asumdwe Park and the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum, where he and his wife laid wreath on the tombs of former President Kwame Nkrumah and that of late President Tatabio. And in the next few minutes, they will be going to Labadi, where there will be an investment forum that both leaders will address.
Many thanks, Seth, for that update. Seth Kwame Boateng is our presidential correspondent. He joined us with an update on a joint news conference organized by President Jacob Zuma, South African President, and President of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama. Move on to, was thrown into a frenzy this weekend when Adam TV's festival train made a stopover in the Garden City during the climax of Akrisidai Festival. Being the last stop for the festival train, the party was one that would be remembered for a long, long time.
The Jubilee Park in Kumasi was packed with a sea of heads as music lovers converged for the mega bash organized by Multi TV's Adum channel. The performances were charged with hip life duo Prior, who teamed up with Castro the Destroyer. The king of the streets, Kwakese, put up a tag team performance with his kid brother, Buddha. Sexy female dancehall artist Kaki was also at her usual best. You can bet the Adum TV Festival train will make a stopover soon at your festival with all the goodies on board.
Well, over 30,000 music lovers thronged to Yohanejan Stadium last Saturday night to party with international award-winning R&B artist Akon as the big eruption concert. Well, if you missed out on that, this is what you have to do. Just tune in to Let's Talk Entertainment, which will come up just about 3:45 today, and you get the scoop on that. But let's move on to some other entertainment story. And country pop star Taylor Swift won the top prize at the American Music Awards, beating out Justin Timberlake, Rihanna, Bruno Mars, Macklemore, and Ryan Lewis for the Artist of the Year award. That's big. The ceremony took place Sunday night at the Nokia Theatre in Los Angeles. Rihanna, who won the Best Female Rhythm and Blues Soul Artist prize, also won the award show's first ever Icon Award, which was presented to her by her mother. How nice.
Taylor Swift.
I'm really out of breath. I was really going hard with the Wrecking Ball thing. Rihanna, I'm so proud of you tonight.
For tonight and his first win in this category. Earlier, Justin was named favorite pop rock male artist.
Can we talk about how cute Rihanna's mom is? How cute Rihanna's mom is!
Right, a recap of our headlines. Former Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, Chacha Tikata, appears before the Judgment Debt Commission over the controversial sale of the corporation's drill ship in 2001. You and Deputy see you Wednesday afternoon.